Citizens of Athens were buzzing with excitement.
Preparations for a hero's welcome were underway on every street.
Merchants hung festive wreaths from every corner, and craftsmen erected new decorative pillars in front of the temples.
They called him the new Heracles, a future guardian destined to protect Athens. They saw in him a champion, a symbol of hope and security for their great city.
But inside the royal palace, the atmosphere was far from celebratory.
The aging King Aegeus sat quietly by a window, sipping tea, seemingly lost in thought.
Beside him were two figures whose silence was heavy with ambition. The sorceress Medea and the king's own brother, Pallas.
Medea's eyes glinted with a sharp intelligence,
While Pallas nervously drummed his fingertips on the armrest of his chair, a rhythm of pure anxiety.
So, Prince Theseus of Trozen will be here soon, Pallas asked in a hushed, tense voice, addressing a courtier. He's already being hailed as a hero.
The people are preparing a grand welcome on every street. As the courtier confirmed the news, Pallas's expression hardened into a mask of resentment.
Beside him, Medea offered a quiet, chilling smile. A smile that did nothing to hide the hostility brewing within her.
Pallas leaned closer to Medea, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper.
When he arrives in Athens, our influence will shrink. If King Aegeus names him as his heir, our political futures are over. We can't let that happen.
On that,
Medea replied, her voice soft as silk, but with the unyielding strength of steel.
We are in complete agreement. Her plan had always been clear. Secure the throne for her own son, Medus, and establish Pallas's sons as powerful Athenian aristocrats. The unexpected arrival of this popular young prince threatened to unravel everything. He must be disgraced, she declared, before he even sets foot in the palace. Pallas raised a skeptical eyebrow. And how do you propose we bring down a celebrated hero? Medea tapped a long finger on the table, a thoughtful, plotting rhythm. It is true that Greek custom celebrates the slaying of evil men, but they were men nonetheless. Killing is still killing.
We will use that point against him. Pallas considered this for a moment before shaking his head. But those acts happened outside Athens' jurisdiction.
We can't punish him under Athenian law. Exactly,
Medea said, letting out a low, suppressed laugh.
We don't need to punish him by law. Our goal is much simpler.
We need to tarnish his reputation. Pallas's eyes slowly lit up with understanding.
You're going to start a rumor. Precisely, Medea confirmed. We'll focus on He wasn't just some common thug. He was the king of Eleusis. If we reframe the story, highlighting that Theseus killed a king even in a wrestling match, the citizens will no longer see a hero. They will see a provocative killer, an ambitious upstart, and as luck would have it, Circe's son is currently in Athens.
Pallas shot up from his seat, his face alight with malicious glee.
Excellent! I'll find Circe's son immediately. We'll get his version of the story and spread it throughout Athens. The news that Theseus killed the king of Eleusis on his own turf will be more than enough to sway public opinion against him. A few days later, Theseus finally passed through the grand gates of Athens. The scene that greeted him was a strange mix of adoration and suspicion. A crowd of citizens was there, shouting his name, but among the cheers, he saw cold, questioning eyes. Is that him? Is that Theseus? He heard them murmur. They say he's a hero.
But I heard he killed the king of Eleusis in his own stadium. Praise and doubt tangled in the air, creating a confusing and unsettling reception.
Theseus immediately sensed that something was wrong. He felt the hostility hidden beneath the cheers, a subtle poison in the air that told him a plot was unfolding. Wasting no time, he slipped away from the crowded main street and found a quiet corner in a back alley to assess the situation. Just then, a familiar face appeared before him. Perigoon. Is that you? The young woman, the daughter of the brigand Cines, looked at him with surprise. Theseus, it really is you. I came to Athens looking for my father, but there's no trace of him. Theseus closed his eyes for a brief, somber moment. He then shook his head gently and said in a low voice, I am sorry. A flicker of sadness crossed Perigoon's face, but she seemed to understand. Theseus then spoke again, his voice firm and urgent. Perigoon, I need a favor. May I borrow your clothes? The dress you are wearing. Though puzzled, she saw the determination in his eyes and nodded silently, trusting him without question. That afternoon, a lone woman walked through the bustling streets of Athens. This was no ordinary woman. It was Theseus in disguise. Dressed in Perigoon's clothes, he moved through the city, his identity concealed, carefully observing the atmosphere. He knew that Pallas's sons and Circean's son were searching for him, but in his current disguise, he was invisible to them. As awoke, a group of arrogant young men blocked his path. Well, what's a pretty thing like you doing walking around without an escort in broad daylight?
That's rather reckless. Their eyes were filled with a mixture of mockery and ill intent.
Theseus clenched his fists, forcing himself to hold back his rising anger, and tried to walk past them quietly.
But one of them, a son of Pallas, grabbed his arm.
Hey, maiden, he sneered. Why don't you let me escort you? Come back to my house for a while.
In that instant, Theseus's fury reached its breaking point. But he knew that if he revealed himself and hurt them now, Medea and Pallas's entire scheme would succeed.
He would be branded a violent brute. He needed to prove his strength, but in a way that wouldn't play into their hands. Thinking Festisar, a merchant leading a large ox, passed them. In one swift, incredible motion, Theseus grabbed the massive animal, lifted it over his head, and with a mighty heave, threw it onto the roof of the nearby market building.
The crowd gasped in unison, their mouths falling open in disbelief.
The faces of Pallas's sons turned pale with shock and terror. They, and everyone else in the market, now knew this was no ordinary woman.
Seizing the opportunity, Theseus broke away.
With the graceful, measured steps of a lady, but the speed and purpose of a warrior, he walked quickly and directly toward the royal palace. The time had come.
He was about to meet his father, King Aegeus, and face the treachery that awaited him inside.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into Greek mythology, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss another story. See you next